Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. Yeah, you know what it is. Hard worker, scrappy, unfiltered, and sometimes unhinged football content. Hard to explain, but you know it when you see it. Doing it daily our way. I don't know what you're talking about right now. Redraft and Dynasty Fantasy Football, we got you covered. You know their defense is ranked like 31st in the NFL? NFL draft prospects and rookies? Now you know you in the right place for that.
Absolutely.
All right, then stop saying it. Then we're done. And prop bets with my man Jay Rich. Count that money, man. Now wipe the crust out of your eyes. Get you a cup of coffee. It's time to wake your ass up with Ray G. You honestly are making absolutely no sense and you sound silly as hell. Let's get it. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good people. It is Tuesday, April the 5th, 2022. Y'all decided to wake y'all asses up with Ray G. Appreciate y'all being here and appreciate our partners, our good friends, Prospects. Don't know if anybody watched the college basketball national championship game last night. I did not, but if you did, congratulations if you're a Kansas Jayhawks fan for taking down the UNC North Carolina Tar Heels. I don't know if it was a good game, bad game. I just know Kansas won. I know a couple of people. I saw some people have some tickets in on North Carolina to win the Natty. They put that money in at the beginning of the season. I saw a cash out option, Jay, of 21 racks. 21 racks. $400 bet. I 100% would have cashed out. I would not have risked it last night. I'm taking my profit where it's there. Max payout would have been $80K. Hopefully that individual cashed out, took that money, ran to the bank and cashed it. But shout out to, I don't know how I went from Prize Picks to that, but shout out to Prize Picks. Make sure you use the promo code WAKEUP. Major League Baseball. Jay, we got baseball kicking back off, Thursday this week. So that means we have to build the model to start getting us some baseball props. Use that promo code WAKEUP, as I said. Link in the description. If you don't want to type it all in, we got all that ready for you. Sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for all the podcasts. Subscribe to all that feed, all that good shit. Jay, how you doing this morning, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Like you said, the Natty was last night. I watched some of it. It wasn't the best Natty I've ever seen, but it was the largest comeback in championship history. So Kansas did overcome that. Really bad first half. North Carolina melted down in the second half. Kansas came back to win. There was some questionable calls down the stretch. It wouldn't be a NCAA tournament game without a few questionable calls from the refs, but overall, it sounded like people enjoyed it. I didn't watch much of the game. I watched the end because it was close, but outside of that, man, I wasn't a big fan of either team. They were kind of supposed to be there. UNC really peaked at the right time. Kansas, number one seed throughout most of the tournament besides Gonzaga. So good for Kansas to get a win. It's been, I think, 10 years since they won the national championship, at least, something like that. So for a team that's supposed to be a powerhouse, they haven't really been getting it done lately. So good for Kansas. But much more excited to talk to these wide receivers, man. We're doing top 10 Dynasty wide receivers today. And you know me, man, wide receivers just it's like my bread and butter. It's a position I like more than any other position. So it'll be a lot of fun to get into that today.
Yeah, man, and we've got to talk about some news. We had a trade that popped off yesterday. The Philadelphia Eagles making savvy moves, and I know it's a little brighter in here today. Decided to do it with the lights on, man. I had to do it with the lights on, Jay. I like to see what I'm doing. I don't like doing it in the dark.
You like to do it with the lights on. Okay.
Yeah,
that could mean multiple things, but I'm glad you clarified for the people how you like it.
Yeah, I like the lights on. I want to see it all. I want to see it. I want to see. Let me see. I like the lights on. But no, tell us what the Eagles did. What the Eagles do?
So the Eagles traded their 16th, 19th, and a 6th rounder to the New Orleans Saints for their 18th pick, a 3rd rounder, a 7th rounder in 2020, and then a 1st in 2023, and a 2nd in 2024. So basically what the Saints did, they have 2 middle round picks now, and they also moved up their 18th pick to the 16th pick. One of the theories behind this actually was from Nick Underhill and a few other, Saints reporters. Apparently, what they want and what the Chargers want are very similar. So one of the big proponents for them was they wanted to make sure they were ahead of the Chargers in the draft because their team needs are just very similar. Now, it sounds crazy because the Saints don't have a quarterback and the Chargers have Justin Herbert. But outside of that, you think about what those teams need, and it's actually very similar, the way they're built, the way they play the game. I think it does make a lot of sense. But the question is, Ray, how do you feel about this trade? The Saints went from being a quarterback or bust type of situation right now. We know they'll go offensive line, we know they'll go defensive line, but now they have 2 picks in the top 20. And one of the key factors for me here is actually they have 2 picks ahead of Pittsburgh. So while people talk about Pittsburgh trading up, we haven't really seen it in the past. Now the Saints have 2 picks ahead of Pittsburgh. So what do we think? What are people really talking about my bet? Is this what we're doing right now? We talking about my bet?
Go ahead. You got a good news. I'm
made?
sorry. You got
Jesus.
a good news segment. I'm sorry. Keep going.
But the question for you, Ray, is where are you at with these picks? Which direction do you think the Saints go? I think one is going to have to be dedicated to the trenches somehow, whether it's offensive line or defensive line. And then the other pick, maybe you get a skill position player like a quarterback, like a wide receiver, or maybe they just stick to the trenches. But there has to be 2 players they really like in the top 20. I've been seeing reports that as well, there is a possibility that they have the draft capital to go up to number 5 and trade with the Giants. Yeah. That would be madness.
Man, I honestly, I have no clue. Of all the teams that I thought would move up or, sort of position themselves to be in the quarterback race, the Saints weren't as high on the list. I figured that, they re-signed Jameis. They were fine with that. And that was like one of the few teams we talked about Pittsburgh. We talked about, Minnesota, Atlanta moving up, all these other teams. The Saints weren't the team that I was expecting to move up, especially with their roster. It's sort of like win now, right? Kamara, Michael Thomas. These are 100%. Pieces that these aren't youthful assets that they have. So do they have the time and the patience to say, and in my opinion, I don't think any of these quarterbacks are ready to go day one out the box. You know what I mean? I think there is some assembly required. I think it needs some time to cure. I think these quarterbacks need some time. So even if they trade up to 5 to take Malik or Kenny Pickett or Matt Corral, whomever the quarterback may be, are they ready to step in right away and lead that team? I'm not saying that they can't. They do have a defense that can sustain and help an offense out. And, based on what we saw from the quarterback play from New Orleans last year between Ian Book, Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, I'm sure any of these young guys would be an upgrade. I just don't know if they're an upgrade over Jameis right away. Weird. Maybe they're going tackle. Maybe they're going to a different position, and it's not to move up to get a quarterback. I thought it was a beautiful move by Philadelphia, and they've sort of positioned themselves now that if there were any kind of doubt, because they still had 3 first-round picks, so maybe some people were still like, they might use some of that to trade up to get a quarterback. All of that out of your mind. Like, they have positioned themselves. Jalen Hurts is locked and loaded starting. He should have been, but now this should solidify it. Starting quarterback for Philly in 2022. But this gives them some flexibility in 2023 that if Jalen Hurts isn't the guy, they've got draft capital to maneuver around in 2023 to get a quarterback, to get a CJ Stroud, to get a Bryce Young, maybe a Will Levis, Tyler Van Dyke. We'll talk about those guys tomorrow. Maybe it puts them in a position to say, all right, the Jalen Hurts experience didn't work out here. We've got the draft capital in 2023 to go make a move. It's interesting, man. I saw somebody tweet out, and it was beautiful. Philadelphia traded the 106 in 2021 and Carson Wentz and ended up with Devontae Smith, 2 first-rounders in 2022, whatever the second rounders were in 2023, a first rounder in 2023 and a first rounder in 2024, some shit like that. Off of the 106, moving back off the 106, trading Carson Wentz, they end up with Devonta Smith, multiple first round picks, and multiple assets to build their team around. Philly making competent moves in the offseason. You hate to see it as a Cowboys fan, but if you're an Eagles fan, you gotta love it. I don't know what New Orleans is going to do, man. I honestly have no clue, Jay. Zero.
Yeah, like the thing for them is, like you said, they do have a good team and they can really plug in different players in different positions. And you have to imagine they just like their guys. Although I wouldn't necessarily rule out Philly drafting up, taking a quarterback, only because they still have the draft capital. They had 3 firsts. Now they just have 2 firsts. They still have 15 and 18. So again, they're drafting in the same range. And like you said, they really just lost 1 pick and they're drafting the same range. Everything's pretty much the same for them. But I'm curious what direction they choose to go, because while I don't think Hurts gets replaced this year, I still think that in a perfect world, if the right quarterback fell to the right spot, I think they could potentially take a quarterback and have a competition and really see what's happening. But
I think Mike hit it on the head. This trade, if Hurts isn't the guy, it's a great trade for Philadelphia. If Hurts is the guy, it's a great trade for Philadelphia. They've put themselves in a fantastic boat to kind of pivot or commit and go long term. I like Jalen. I am a Jalen Hurts truther. I'm a Jalen Hurts believer. Let's just say this. 1-for-1 as prospects. I believe Jalen Hurts is the superior prospect than Malik Willis. I think he's a better college prospect than Malik Willis. No, he may not have the cannon of an arm that Malik has, but the pedigree, level of competition, what he was able to do in P5 conferences, not only in the SEC, but then he transitions over to Big 12. I believe Jalen Hurts is a better quarterback prospect than Malik Willis when you put him head-to-head. I'm not fading Jalen Hurts, man. Every hurdle, every speed. Last year was his first full year starting. We go back to his rookie season. He started the last 4 games of that season. 2 of them were good. 2 of them were shit. 50% hit rate for a rookie quarterback that was taken in the second round that wasn't supposed to play in his first season. Just want to say this is a great trade for Philadelphia, whatever direction they want to go. I think this is very good for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jay, there was nothing else that really popped off yesterday, right? I saw Rashad Bateman change his number
from 12 to 7. And then your boy Taco Charlton signed with the Saints too. So the Cowboys losing another defensive player.
He's been off for the Cowboys for a long time. He hasn't been with Dallas for a very long time, so he's not my boy. I despise the Taco Charlton pick. What a waste of a first rounder. Good luck, Saints fans, with Taco Charlton. No, thank you. And Bateman changed his number from 12 to 7. Didn't even get to 7 because he wore number. What did he wear in college? He was 13.
I think
he was 13.
He was 13, and then didn't he switch to 1 in his last season?
He switched to 0. He was Agent 0 in his last season. So I don't know where the 7 came from, but all right. Good for Rashad Bateman. Anyways, top 10 Dynasty wide receivers. We got to get to it. This is going to be debate, dissension. Hopefully not at the top, but right at 3. Right from 3 down to, we said top 10. We're probably going to do top 12. Just keeping it real. Probably
I got a big list for sure.
Yeah, I had a big list too. We're probably gonna go 12 deep. So I think, and we had this conversation yesterday, Jay, with the patrons, right? I really think that with these wide receivers and where we're at, in Dynasty and their NFL career, the way the NFL game is kind of evolving, air it out type offenses, you got to score points. I think there should be 2 sets of rankings for wide receivers, especially like the top 20. Should be like the win now wide receiver dynasty rankings and the kind of regular standard traditional dynasty rankings, because the issue that you run into when you're trying to rank these wide receivers are, I think the 2-3 best wide receivers in the NFL are all 28, 29, 30 years old, right? They're all like older. And in dynasty, you don't want, it's the youth movement, right? So I think it really depends on the type of roster that you're trying to build. And this more so pertains to dynasty startup drafts. Once you're in the league and you're making trades, it kind of changes the equation. But when you're in a startup, you got to ask yourself, Jay, if I asked you right now, man, who's going to have the more productive season, Cooper Kupp or Jalen Waddle? I think we both agree it's probably Cooper Kupp, right? Devontae Adams or CeeDee Lamb, Devontae Adams or T. Higgins, we're going with Devontae Adams. But if I asked you in a startup draft, do you want DK Metcalf or Devontae Adams? Do you want Cooper Kupp or CeeDee Lamb? Most dynasty gamers in the startup, your mind, you're thinking dynasty, you're thinking long term, you're going to side with youth. You'll be like, all right, well, CeeDee's not going to outproduce Cooper Kupp this year, but CeeDee Lamb is 22 years old and Cooper Kupp is 28 going on 29 or whatever it is. Like, you're like, I need the 7 years of insulation. I look back on all my dynasty rosters, man. I've had upwards of 30 dynasty teams at a time. I've significantly cut back on that. I think I'm sitting around like 11 or 12 right now. I just needed to be able to focus in on these leagues a little bit more. Ask me how many players in my longest dynasty league, my home dynasty league, it's going into year 6 or year 7 now. Ask me how many players I have on my roster now that I actually drafted in the startup. 6 years in. 35, 40-man roster, taxi squad.
Has to be under 5. Has to be under 5. I'd probably say under 3.
One player that I drafted in the startup, and it's Dak Prescott. That's the only, and it's the quarterback, right? Super flex, most valuable position is quarterback. That, you know what, man? I did not say good morning to anybody in the chat, and I apologize. So I'm going to go reverse order. I see John, Shane, Joe, Roe in the building, Patrick, Corey, another Patrick, Chris, Another Patrick, Corey, Brandon, Mike A, always in the building, Mike, Austin, Dynasty, Barry, Marlon. Good morning to y'all. I am sorry. I was so ready to be dirty and talk about doing it with lights on and off. I just completely missed all the good people who tune in that are up early this morning to check in with us. So I'm sorry about that. I apologize. Now back to the regular scheduled program. I've got one player, Jay. One. So while we talk about like, oh man, I'm gonna get this guy. I'm asking a real question here. Now we're getting into it. Like, should that shit matter, man, or should we just be looking at Dynasty in a like pseudo redraft lens? Not really redraft, but like you're a great example of that, Jay. You are all about, I want to win now. If I get 2 titles within the first couple of years, I don't care what happens after that. You know what I mean? You're like, I'll figure it out. I'll rebuild.
Yeah.
I want to win the money now.
Folds, right,
or the league folds. Like I'm thinking about it, and this is a league that I run. Like it's my home Dynasty league, and I've got one cat on my roster that I drafted with 35-man plus rosters. I got one, and it's the quarterback. So how much should we be factoring age into these decisions? Like, okay, it feels gross. I'm not going to say in the second round you should go Cooper Kupp, but why not? If you're thinking about taking, I don't know, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore, and you're going to trade that fucker in a couple of weeks anyway, why not just get the assets that are going to score? I'm just philosophical conversation. I don't know if I'm right or dead ass wrong, but I want to have this conversation because as we build these rankings out on the show, I think that's what we're going to run up against a lot is the age, right? How can you have Devontae Adams ranked so high when he's 30 years old, or Cooper Kupp when he's pushing 30? How can you have him over these guys? Well, in my mind, Cooper Kupp's tied to Matthew Stafford for the next 3 years. He's a walking, at minimum, 1,300 yards. I don't think he's going to do, damn near 2K again. I think that was an outlier season. But you're telling me Kupp's going to go out there and give me 1,310 for the next 3 years floor? I want that. You know what I'm saying? I want that over the insulation of age that I get from a CeeDee Lamb, even though CeeDee Lamb's probably going to play a little bit. I'm just spitballing. Vibe with me here, man. Am I completely off base?
I think it depends, right? I think we'll dive into the philosophy of it more. But what I think I want people to take away from this exercise is not so much that you should be drafting these receivers where we have them ranked necessarily, but understanding that there's a difference, obviously, like you're saying, between production and value. And depending on how you want to build your team in a startup, the value direction is usually the way you want to go for long-term success, sustainability. Like you're talking about how you only have one player on your home Dynasty league for the last 6 years. Now, is that because you traded guys away? Is that because, like you're saying, you drafted good players and you cashed out on some of that value and then you retooled and you got more value through the rookie drafts and through picks and all these sort of things? I think for me, your philosophy is 100% right. And that was the conundrum I had is, where do I rank Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp? Because they're the two guys really to me that can actually crack the top 10, regardless of whether you're trying to win now or win later, because they have a 3-year window. And as long as you have a 3-year window at wide receiver, I think you're fine to take in the top 10. But it comes down to is, at the end of the day, these guys are depreciating assets and the other guys still have some room to grow, or at least will still demand trade value 2 to 3 years down the line. And we just can't say that about these two. They're going to be the DeAndre Hopkinses or the Julio Joneses or the AJ Greens, where they're highly productive later in their career, but that we know that value drop off is constantly coming and you're not actually gaining anything by drafting them in the top 10. So again, even for me, when I draft wide receivers, it's rare I take one very high, because I like to take the guys that are a little bit lower that have a chance to jump into the top 12. But I think we can start at the top, right? I don't know who your top guy is, but I have to imagine it's Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson are 1 and 2. This isn't a conversation that really needs to be had. We can kind of dive into the other two. For me, it's Burrow over Kirk or whoever the hell the next quarterback is, right? That's the big difference, is that I think that Jamar Chase is just an elite talent. So here's actually a quick question for you. I believe that Jamar Chase is an inferior wide receiver to Justin Jefferson. I believe that Justin Jefferson is a more talented wide receiver, but I believe that Jamar Chase is more gifted than Justin Jefferson. I just think that there's things that Jamar Chase can do that Justin Jefferson can't do. But the work ethic and the way that Justin Jefferson has positioned himself, his career, and his abilities is superior to that of Jamar Chase to this point. But Jamar Chase is just so gifted that at any point he could have a higher ceiling than Justin Jefferson, regardless of how much Jefferson works, as talented as he is. I just think that Jamar Chase is a truly gifted wide receiver. And that to me is the difference between the two. As talented as both of them are, Jamar Chase is just different. Like, he's just different. And I don't think I see it from a talent perspective, because I believe Justin Jefferson's more talented. But with Burrow, with how great he played, 18 yards per reception, broke Jefferson's record, like, it's impossible for me to not say that Jamar Chase is wide receiver one.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't know if I would have framed it that way. I think Justin Jefferson is a more rounded and polished wide receiver at this stage of their career than Jamar Chase is. I mean, you look at what Chase did last year, man. On 81 receptions, almost 1,500 yards, 18 yards per reception, 13 touchdowns. Like, he did that having not played football for a year. He did that, and it honestly just looked like he was just out there, just throw that shit up. Like, just throw it up, throw it in my direction. My thing is, imagine how much better he'll be in year 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he was that good this year, having sat out a year, just kind of being thrown into the mix, like, imagine how good he's going to be in year 3, year 4, year 5. And as a wide receiver, you don't have to do everything, right? I think Justin Jefferson literally can do it all at an exceptional level. But you don't need that in order to be elite. And I think ultimately this is your tier 1. It's Jefferson and Chase. I'd lean the quarterback side with Joe Burrow. But these are the top 2 guys. Interchange them however you want. Everyone, and Justin Jefferson, he heard the noise, right? Everybody talked about regression. He wouldn't be able to do what he did his rookie season again in year 2. Not only did he do that, he exceeded it, 1,600, 15 yards of reception, 10 touchdowns. He's just incredible. These two, flip a coin, and I would be good with either one of them. I think Jamar Chase has more physical, like, gifts, just physically. But Justin Jefferson equally is gifted, and I love his story, man. You and I were both big fans of Justin Jefferson at LSU. When you look at the kid, I think he was a 2-star recruit coming out of LSU. Really only got the LSU offer because his brother played quarterback there. His brother was a quarterback at LSU, starting quarterback, took his team to a national championship. But, I mean, Jefferson ran a 4.88 out of high school, wasn't supposed to be much at LSU, behind all these highly touted recruits, and he's just worked his ass off to get to the level that he's at. I think these are the top 2 wide receivers in Dynasty for sure. So, 1, 2, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. If you got either of these guys or both of these guys, you're sitting pretty. I think that the dissension starts to come in here at wide receiver 3, and for me, I've got A.J. Brown at wide receiver 3 in Dynasty for me, and that's a big shift over my boy CD. But I've got A.J. Brown at wide receiver 3. What he's done to this point of his career, just wait until there's some consistency, right? I know he was a little bit banged up last year, but he's a human tank, man. That's why I keep calling the Tennessee Titans Monstars. And if they get a Drake London or a Treylon Burks and you pair that with A.J. Brown, I think it only helps. He's needed a running mate for a while. He needs a number 2 to draw a little bit of attention away from him with Derrick Henry in the backfield. So now they've got Robert Woods coming over, the potential to bring in another rookie wide receiver. For me, A.J. Brown is my wide receiver 3 in Dynasty. Where you at?
Zero disagreement. You saw the excitement on my face. A.J. Brown, a player I've loved forever, it seems like. It feels like my influence is starting to come through to fruition, right? I expected you to go with a big body wide receiver, the big physical guys. But no, you took my man A.J. Brown, and what he needs is targets. He doesn't need a running mate. He needs targets. He's never had more than 120 targets his whole career. I get people are concerned about the injuries, but the upside is truthfully Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson level. Him and one other guy to me have tier 1 potential. I don't even really think CeeDee Lamb has tier 1 potential. But maybe with the volume being there. But A.J. Brown is different, man. I think he's a completely different player. And by far, to me, the closest thing to tier 1 that we have in the rest of this wide receiver class.
I agree with Joe. It's got to happen this year. I agree. I mean, if he doesn't finish top 5, I don't think you can have him up there. But this is why we're doing this exercise. I agree. And I'm betting on that, right? I'm still a big fan, still a believer in the talent. Like you said, hasn't had over 130 targets. I don't know if that's Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if that's him being on the field. But it needs to happen this year. I 100% agree. He's going to get paid like a top wide out. But I do agree with that. That's a fair point. Wide receiver 4. And, again, here's my thing. When we're talking about these top guys, whether it's 3 or 4, 4 or 5, 3 or 5. It's all just on the margins, man. This is just it's not that I have any of these guys. The only two wide receivers that I have head and shoulders above anybody else are Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson. So if you're like, nah, Ray, AJ Brown should be 4, how could then I'm not even disagreeing with it. Like I'd be like, all right, I can see that. For me, I've got CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 4. He's my wide receiver 4. This is year 3 for CeeDee Lamb. Amari Cooper's out of the way. Michael Gallup is hurt. He's on an offense with one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. I think Dak, we can all agree, is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. This is CeeDee Lamb's time to shine. We've seen flashes. We've seen little spurts of the potential. But here's his chance to really put it all together and have that 1,500 yard season at 10 plus, 12 plus touchdown year. CeeDee Lamb time is now in Dallas and still a top 5 dynasty wide receiver in my opinion. If you want to flip him to 3, I know you don't think he's got a shot to be in that tier 1. I do think he's got that potential. He's a yak monster. He's a red zone weapon. He can do it in all quadrants of the field. But if you're asking me right now, I have A.J. Brown just a tick ahead of CeeDee Lamb. Got to see it from CD as well here in year 3 for CeeDee Lamb. And then rounding out my top 5. I don't know who you have at 4 or 5, Jay. This was a tough one for me, man. You give me your 5. Who's your 4? What do you think about CD at 4? Do you have CD at 4?
I have CD at 5, actually.
Okay,
and I think we're in the same spot at 4. I have DK Metcalf at 4.
I got DK at 5, and that was tough for me. That was a tough one for me. Go ahead.
So I'm with you on that. I think that conversation about DK is very valid, right? But what I always come back to with DK is that he's always been better than I ever expected him to be. And because of that, I need to give him the respect of the receivers around him. He's basically done what A.J. Brown has done throughout his career, right? Throughout the 3 years. He hasn't done anything different. A.J. might have a few more yards. Touchdowns are very similar. I believe DK had 13 touchdowns this year in what was really a pedestrian offense for about half the season. And so the biggest thing for me, and the reason why he's ranked so high and why I still like him very high, is because I think there is an opportunity now for DK to be the guy on his own team, because we don't think necessarily Tyler Lockett's going to be there. We don't even think DK is necessarily going to be there on this team. And so if you take him out of Tyler Lockett's shadow or playing with Tyler Lockett, he's only had, I think his max was 130 targets in one season. What is DK going to look like if he has 150 targets, 160 targets, 170 targets when he gets traded and paid to be that wide receiver 1? I just think, he's kind of the rare exception for me where I don't love these big body go-get-it receivers, but DK is a different level of specimen. And again, another guy that I believe could be in the tier 1 if everything goes right, because people love him. People love what he does. The talent is exceptional. But Lamb, for me, is at 5. Like you said, everything you said is valid. Dak Prescott, the Cowboys, Cooper leaving. I'm curious to see how that role and transition goes for him, because not to say he was in Cooper's shadow, but he had some coverage insulation with Cooper because Cooper was still seeing a lot of top coverage. But we'll see what happens with Lamb now and kind of how he shakes out on that offense, but should be in for a massive target load this year. So we'll see, but I'm with you. I think we have the same top 5. That's really boring, but I think this is how you want to play in Dynasty. Very, very young, very, very talented.
All right, now here we go. At wide receiver 6, and again, I have not seen your rankings. No clue where you're going here. But I've got T. Higgins at 6. I've got T. Higgins at wide receiver 6. And I actually thought about moving him as high as like 5, man. Like, if you're telling me, Ray, you're too high on A.J. Brown, CD, bump him up, move T. Higgins up over. Like, I wouldn't argue it again. I got T. Higgins right outside of there. My only question with T is, and this is a question that we don't have to really deal with until next year. Do you think Cincinnati pays him what he wants to be paid? Because if they pay T. Higgins, let's just say 28, 29 million, $30 million, are they going to have $30 million a year tied up in 2 wide receivers? Because the very next year, now they may franchise tag him, tag Chase, though. But are they going to be able to keep both of those guys? They got the 5th-year
option too, right?
I want them to stay on their team. Hayden Winks, shout out Hayden Winks, Underdog Fantasy, talked about wide receivers transitioning teams and how they just historically that doesn't bode well for wide receivers that switch teams. And I know, yes, Randy Moss did it, and there have been some others. But historically, historically they don't produce the same. Like, are they going to be able to keep T and Jamar? And where does that leave T. Higgins? Now, again, back to the original point, do I even give a damn if I'm operating in a 2 or 3 year window and I'm probably going to trade T. Higgins at some point because the value is so high? Maybe it doesn't matter. T. Higgins at wide receiver 6 for me. And then rolling into 7, man. I got Devontae Adams. And I know he's old. And people are like, yeah. It's still Tay Adams, man. He is walking into 145, 150 targets minimum this year. I mean, he's just going to get peppered with them. And if you're operating, again, in a 2 or 3 year window with these wide receivers, I don't care what happens 4 years after I draft Devontae Adams, because there's a good chance he's not on my roster in 4 years. But for the next 2 years, he's probably going to produce in an elite clip. So I'm still there with Devontae Adams. You can interchange him and Cooper Kupp. I have them back to back. I'm just going down the list. 6, Higgins, Adams, Kupp, 7, 8. You want to put Kupp in, ahead of Adams, I won't argue it one bit. But that's where I'm at, 6, 7, and 8 in some combination. T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. Where are you at?
Yeah, I have the same 3. So my list was Higgins, Adams, Kupp. You nailed it with Higgins, and the reason why I'm not worried, honestly, is because it's one of 2 situations. And I actually want to paint another picture for you, and I'm curious how this could work financially. But there is a 2-year window, right, between T. Higgins' contract ending and then Jamar Chase's extension. So there's potential for a 2-year contract for T. Higgins to remain on that roster.
He's not.
You don't think so?
That. If I was his agent, I would not advise him to take a 2-year deal. No way.
No, not take a 2-year deal, but he could take a deal that's $50 million guaranteed with a $100 million contract over 5 years, and him get his $50 million, then get cut, then move on when they need to sign Jamar Chase. So I'm not saying he's not going to get paid. He's still going to get paid, but I think there's a world where that could happen. But what scares me, Ray, is do receivers even get the 5th-year option? Like, at some point, that 5th-year option is going to be, what, 20, 25 million if these receiver contracts, like, at that point, you might as well just pay the guy and lock him up. Like, I get you're getting a value, but it's crazy to think that, like, wide receiver 5th-year options are going to get hella expensive over the next few years. So I think there's a window potentially for a 2 years of guaranteed money for Tegan to remain on the roster. But if he does leave, someone's going to pay him $25-30 million. So I'm not worried about his production. Maybe you, like you said, the situation might not be great, but he's going to get the work if they're going to pay him that much. And like you talked about, Adams and Kupp, the only 2 guys to me with locked-in production for the next 2 to 3 years, elite-level wide receivers, and I don't really think anyone else can contend. I thought about potentially the only other guy really for me is Diggs, right? If Diggs stays in Buffalo, he's got elite-level upside, but he's not on the same level as Devontae Adams and Cooper Kupp, and that's why for me that's 6, 7, 8 for. So we got to round out 2 more guys.
Yeah,
and that's the end of my tier 3 too. So now it's
all right, go to your next 2. Go to your next 2.
So my next 2,
who are 9
I
and
think
10?
Is Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I'm taking, again, an elite level talent. Unfortunately, switching teams, going to a new roster should be the number 1, and then a very young, extremely talented wide receiver in Jalen Waddle, who, again, will be the beta role. We'll see what his overall production looks like. He's the guy that just isn't locked in at 10, right? He's the guy that could easily slip like way, way down. Because, again, behind him, we got Deebo Samuel, Deontay Johnson, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs, Terry McLaurin, Devontae Smith, Chris Godwin, and Mike Evans. There are a bunch of guys I just threw into this tier that, Evans, Godwin aren't going to go that high. But production level, all similar. But for me, Tyreek needs to be in the top 10 because of what he could be. The fear of him not being top 5, top 6, top 7 is we don't know what his exact role is going to be. Tua is the ultimate question mark. And for both these guys, if he's good, they're top 10 assets. If he's okay, maybe only one of them is a top 10 asset. But we'll see what ends up happening, Ray. Where are you at with these 2 guys, and where are you at with the rest of your top 10?
Yeah, I got Waddle and Hill as well. I got Waddle at 9, Tyreek at 10. And it's ironic that now they're both on the same team. I think I got those 2 at 9, 10. So what I want to do real quick is just recap our 10 that we came to. And it was Chase Jefferson, tier 1 of their own. A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf sort of lumped together in 3 through 5. You actually had, DK Metcalf ahead of CeeDee Lamb. You had A.J. Brown at 3. Then we had the same 6 through 8, T. Higgins, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp, kind of flip-flop the order, and then Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill. What I want to do is, that's one column. Let's look at it in win-now mode. Who I think is going to be the most productive this year. If I had to reshuffle this, the top 5 would probably go Chase Jefferson, Cooper Kupp at wide receiver 3, like over any of these guys. I have more faith in Cooper Kupp this upcoming season than I do anybody else on this list. So I can easily put Cooper Kupp at 3, Devontae Adams at 4, and then you take a guess. CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins at 5. If you were building, and that's why I said at the beginning of the show, I really do think that we should operate in what direction is your team going in, right? Let's just say you started your dynasty startup with like Trey Lance and you traded down and you got Malik Willis. You're acquiring assets. You got all these young guys. Why on earth would you pair Cooper Kupp, even if he's going to be the 3rd most productive wide receiver or 2nd most productive wide receiver in the NFL? Why would you pair Cooper Kupp with Malik Willis and Trey Lance? And I get it. Well, Ray, I could trade. I could the value. I'm not doing that, right? Like if I've got Willis and Lance as my bookend quarterbacks, I'm not taking a 28, 29-year-old wide receiver. I want DK Metcalf. I want T. Higgins. I want AJ. I want youth to pair with my roster. But if I started off, let's just say hypothetically, you're drafting at the back of the 1st and you start off with Christian McCaffrey, Lamar Jackson, and you're sitting in those, and you're like, I'm going to wait on quarterback. I'm going to get an Aaron Rodgers in the 5th. Then I want Cooper Kupp on that. I truly believe there is no one-size-fits-all for dynasty rankings. And I think this is the problem that dynasty gamers get themselves into is going to sites, right? And let's just pull up like, okay, here goes everyone's favorite, keep trade cut, right? Like just pulling it up and drafting based on, well, Cooper Kupp, everyone values him as wide receiver 18. But if the direction of your roster isn't win now, why the hell would you draft Cooper Kupp with Malik Willis and Trey Lance as your quarterbacks, right? Why would you do that? The chances of you being in a position to compete are probably slim to none. So we're looking at what they have. They got Chase, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp at 5. Debo was not on our list, right? Debo Samuel here at 6. Waddle, DK, Higgins, Devontae, Tyreek Hill. There goes their sort of top 10, right? I'm looking at DLF, startup ADP. Here they go. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Boom, boom, boom. CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, A.J. Brown, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Adams, Debo Samuel, DK Metcalf. There go their top 10 wide receivers. No T. Higgins inside the top 10. He's standing right outside at 11. And if you're asking me right now, Jay, would I rather have T. Higgins or Debo Samuel? It's 100% T. Higgins, 100%. Man. Like I'm not even like it's not even a question, right? So I think one of the big problems that fantasy gamers get in is looking at wholesale rankings and saying that's how you should, there goes the ranks. What's the direction of your team? The 40 chess guys talk about it all the time. What's the direction of your roster? And I think that's why it truly depends on what you're going for. Some people love the productive struggle. They're like, yo, I want nothing but youthful picks, and I'm going to load up on 2023s and 2024s, and I'll be ready to compete in 2 years. And then you got some cats that come in and say, I'm trying to win now, damn it. And if you're trying to win now, 100%, I want Cooper Kupp and Devontae Adams over some of these guys. Just know that you're operating in a 2-3 year window, which there's nothing wrong with it. I just think it truly depends on what you want to do with your team, what you want to do with your roster, and that's how I value those guys. So Waddle and Hill rounded out my top 10, and if we just put in an extra bonus 2 for top 12, it would be Debo Samuel and DJ Moore for me. Who would your next 2 be?
Mine would be Debo Samuel and Deontay Johnson.
Okay.
And so, the chat is going crazy. Oh, disrespect to Debo Samuel. I think people are just prisoner of the moment with Debo Samuel right now. I don't think they really realize that, it's very unsustainable to expect 400 yards and 8 touchdowns on the ground from a wide receiver. I know they can say he's a wide back and, he's the best player in the offense and it all runs through Debo, and I get that. But he's still a player who only had 121 targets last year. He averaged 18 yards per reception.
Let me say this. Hey, man, we ain't disrespecting. Y'all disrespected Debo because going into last season, nobody wanted Debo Samuel. It was
that's part of the argument.
It was all about Brandon Ayuk. It was all about Brandon Ayuk.
His value is tanking.
Y'all disrespected Debo Samuel. It was all about Brandon Ayuk going into the season. And I'm just here to say, I think this was the first season, and I'm not even being funny, the first season since Debo Samuel's second year at South Carolina that he finished the season healthy. They are going to run him literally into the ground. If he keeps doing toss sweeps, wide zone reads, as a running back, they're going to Shanahan The Shanahans, if they ain't good for nothing, they're good for running players into the ground. They're going to run Deebo Samuel into the ground, literally. I don't care. All that shit looks cool with him bouncing off of tackles on toss sweeps, but when you're doing that as a wide receiver, giving linebackers and safety a downhill start to blast your ass, it's not going to end well. If I had Deebo, for everyone that thinks we're being disrespectful to him, having him inside our top 12 still, you are the mark that I would be selling Deebo Samuel to. I have you starred on my list, and I would be trading you Deebo Samuel, and I'd be asking for the world. I'm not disrespecting Deebo. I think he's a fantastic player, still inside our top 12, but I'm not taking him over any of the guys ahead of him. I'm not taking him over Coop, Kupp, Brown, Waddle, Adams, DK. Not doing it, bro. Cannot do it. Will not do it. Call it disrespect, call it what you want. I'm not doing it.
No. You laid it out perfectly. This is a player who the entire community wrote off because he only played 7 games last season. But this season, all of a sudden, he's going in as a top 7 wide receiver. I'm sorry. I've been in the Dynasty game long enough to know that when you see these massive market corrections like we're seeing with Deebo Samuel right now, there's just no guarantee it's going to last. And more than likely, he's going to be a guy who drops in rankings instead of going up. Like, is he really going to be ahead of T. Higgins or Adams or Kupp? Or no, he's got a very small shot of being ahead of those guys unless, like we're talking about, prisoner of the moment, they see him take a sweep and he takes it 80 yards and he breaks 4 tackles. Like, go ahead, then go flip him for 2 to 3 firsts, and you'll be more than happy with that. For me, it's just, again, I just don't, I can't do it with Deebo. I've been in there before. I have him on rosters. He's great when he plays. When he doesn't play, it's not so fun. And I just think he just had a great season. Nothing to take away from Deebo. He had 1,400 yards on only 77 receptions. But can he do that again and still be as productive and still deserve this top 6-7 ranking that people have for him? I just don't think he can, crazy, right? Man. He's still an older wide receiver at 26 years old. It's not like he's 24 or 23 like some of these guys are who were taken. So again, that's where I'm at. But with Deontay Johnson, the thing people need to realize is, like, he's just a target monster. You can say what you want about his drops and his talent on the field, but if he's healthy, he's getting the ball. I've been saying this for 2 years, Ray. You remember a tweet that I put out? I put it in the Discord, and then I put it out on Twitter after that.
So hold on.
You want to get into that?
Hold on. No, we got it. I'm not done. I'm not done with Deebo Samuel. I'm not done because it's not hate. I like Deebo a lot. And I saw Patrick is my guy. He's always in here. Said you can't knock Deebo for his health and then put A.J. Brown at wide receiver 3. Deebo's 26, A.J. Brown's 24. Deebo Samuel, let's go back to college, right? Let's go back his last couple of years. He played a full season this year. Great. Before this season, what did Deebo Samuel do? 5 games in 2020, 11 games in 20 as a rookie, so we'll take that. Not bad. College, 5 games as a freshman. That's 2015, long time ago. 10 as a sophomore, 3 as a junior, and then he played 12 as a senior. A.J. Brown is 2 years younger. A.J. Brown was hurt last year. He got hurt last year and still played in 13 games. There's not going to be any model of health where everybody goes through every season in their NFL career unscathed. So I'm not knocking Deebo for a season of being hurt. I'm knocking him for multiple seasons of being injured and being 2 years older than A.J. Brown. And I believe A.J. Brown is a better wide receiver than Deebo Samuel is a wide receiver. So when we're talking about wide receiver rankings, that is why Deebo Samuel is below an A.J. Brown. And we talked about it. Inside that top 3, you want to put A.J. Brown at 5 and have DK Metcalf or T. Higgins above him? I won't argue it. This is just what we think. I wouldn't argue that. I'd say, all right, that's fine. I can see that. But I'm not putting Deebo in that range, man. He's still top 12. I have him as a wide receiver 1 in Dynasty, just not in that tier where if I'm sitting on the clock and I'm staring down A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, there is no fiber in my body. 35 years of life inside of this. There is no way that this trigger finger can press a draft on Deebo Samuel with A.J. Brown, CeeDee Lamb, and DK Metcalf on the board. If you can do that, more power to you. But old GQ, I cannot do it. I can't, will not, cannot, and it won't happen. And that doesn't mean I hate Deebo. I like him a lot. Y'all the ones who didn't like him because y'all said he was dead and it was Brandon Ayuk coming in to next season was going to be the guy. All right, now I'm done with Deebo.
Now you're done with Debo.
Now I'm
And Joe
done.
actually said in the chat perfectly, you have to treat Debo kind of like a running back because that's the shelf life that he seems to have in the
Yes.
NFL right now. It's just what we project for him to be moving forward. You can get super excited about this whole wide back thing, but the longevity of a player playing that position is much shorter. So a guy who's already turning 26, going on 27, for me, I
And
just
being run
can't
like
do
I
it, man.
don't like
Yeah.
it, man. Like I would watch it, especially that game where I'm watching and I'm like, yo, they are like
He's
they
getting
are
hit hard.
legit running him into the ground. Maybe that was a blip. Maybe that's not trend, and maybe they don't do that next year. Maybe. And I don't like the dynasty with like injury stuff. Like I gotta fade it.
Yeah.
But you can't ignore how beat up Debo has been throughout his career, and you keep running toss sweeps to your damn wide receiver. And I know he's built not. Yo, if I'm a linebacker, they are coming to wreck his head. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't continue to do that. So again, we don't hate Debo. We still have him inside the top 12. I got him over Deontay Johnson, who Jay likes and Jay loves. Yeah, so that's the top 12. I think the way that you have to operate and treat these wide receivers outside of maybe Jefferson and Chase, like what's the direction of your team? Do you got a team that's, if you're building a team that you want to win, it's a high buy-in, $250 buy-in, winner takes all, and you want that cash, give me Cooper Kupp, give me Devontae Adams, give me those guys, because I know they are walking 100 reception, 12, 13, 1,500 yard wide receivers, 10 plus touchdowns. They're going to help me win right away. I know they are the number one targets on their team. If you've got some time and you want to build, you're like, yo, I like this 2023 class. I think I'm going to fade a couple of these running backs. I'm going to load up on some Jahmyr Gibbs in 2023, 2024. I'm going to get a good shot at Xavier Worthy, and I'm going to build a young, youthful powerhouse down the line. Then shit, no. Somebody said in the chat, you do not want to pair Cooper Kupp with Zach Wilson. You don't want to pair Devontae Adams with Mac Jones, right? Like, you just don't want to do that. With Kenny Pickett. And I'm going to draft Kenny Pickett and Cooper Kupp. We're really going to make a run this year. Probably not a wise strategy in Dynasty. But that's it. That's what we got. And, I'm looking at, a lot of people say they don't like keep trade cut. I like looking at it because it gives me a good idea of where people are valuing these guys. Cooper Kupp, Deebo Samuel. There you go. Two guys that we were a little lower on. Apparently the community loves them. You all, the drafters, you love these guys. So nothing wrong with it. Some players that we didn't talk about, Stephon Diggs right outside. Jay, you didn't bring up DJ Moore. I had him inside my top 12. There goes Chris Godwin, Devontae Smith, Elijah Moore. And then we get into like rookie territory, right? Pittman, Burks, McLaurin, Jerry Jeudy. Don't believe any of those guys right now are in that same category of the players that we talked about at the beginning. And the big thing, Jay, is the age, right? It's 22, 22, 22, 24, 28, 26, 24, 23, 29, 28, 28. It's the age, right? So, again, pick the direction, make your list. Don't just go off of composite rankings by random-ass sites. You got to do your own EDU. There it is, man. We built it out together. I'm sure people are very upset about
Cody
something.
Carpentier with the spicy Elijah Moore take. He's
What
saying
did Cody
Elijah Moore
say?
wide receiver 1. Cash money. I don't know, man. That's tough. I love Elijah Moore. I mean,
I'm gonna be talking with Cody, so I'm gonna be on with Cody on the Futurecast. I think this Friday. Yeah, Cody, lock me in. Futurecast this Friday. I'm gonna make sure he ain't sniffing too much of them smelling salts to work out, because I'm assuming he's a little bit jacked up on those smelling salts to hit those squats this morning. Cody, big tripping right there. Elijah Moore. That's big trip, but we'll talk about a big dog. I appreciate everybody tapping into the chat this morning. Did I miss anything, Jay? Any super chat stuff and nothing like that? Nothing?
I don't think so, no. I think we just
you today.
setting flame to the wide receiver rankings, man. That's how we do it.
To the wide receiver rankings. Tomorrow, what do we got tomorrow? We're taking a look at the 2023 QBs, right? 2023 and beyond. All right, so make sure you tap in. How many 49ers running backs are injured? All of them, Joe. Elijah Mitchell beat up. All of them beat up, so they're probably going to take a running back in the draft and just screw everything up. Heard that. I'll bring some salt on Friday. All right, Cody, you crazy son of a you-know-what. We appreciate everybody tapping into the show. Make sure you comment, hit the thumbs up button, like it. Y'all have a fantastic Tuesday. Be blessed, be great, and we'll tap in tomorrow morning. We out. Peace.